And we are live.
What is up,
Welcome back.
everybody?
Welcome back to 305 Takes. We hope you guys had a good weekend because me and Miles got a lot to talk about. We're going to touch up on Steelers versus Dolphins, some fantasy stars and busts of the week, and players you guys should trade for in your playoff run in fantasy. But, but before we get started with the show, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, E2G Sports, where you guys can find your latest sports news on NBA, NFL, MLB, and the list goes on. You can check out their website or their YouTube channel to see all the sports content you want in any shape or fashion. So let's get straight into it. I'm gonna grab something real quick, but keep the conversation going, Miles, because you were at this game, Steelers versus Dolphins. So give us a quick take on that.
So, Steelers versus Dolphins. First half was amazing, honestly. Dolphins looked really good, especially in that first drive. You can tell McDaniel's really good at being able to script up the first couple plays, but it was surprising that that first play resulted in a false start. But offense looked good in the first half, and then I have no idea what happened in the second half. Neither team scores, and the Dolphins. I just don't know what happened in that
That's
second
what I
half,
was gonna say because
especially
I
because
was
that first
watching
half
the
was
game.
good.
The first quarter, you guys were moving the ball up and down the field, but after that, like I was just like, "Where's the offense?"
Yeah, the first half was definitely good for the offense. They were able to move the ball up and down, and they got the first pick off of Pickett when he was trying to hit Claypool. But that was uh, that was not a good second half of football for either team. And you know that's a lot of pressure put on a Dolphins defense. And I get that it's the Steelers offense. So, okay, maybe it's not like the most pressure, but still like the fact that the Steelers only needed to score their second touchdown of the game and they would have won the game by 1 point is like we can't put up more than 16 points. And I guess this is a Steelers team that is finding themselves a little bit. I know that last week they did go ahead and beat Tampa Bay, which no one expected. But I honestly just was surprised how bad the offense stalled in that second half. And it's surprising when you look at it because, Waddle, he didn't have the best game as far as yardage wise, but he still had 5 catches. Tariq had, I believe, 6 for 80 yards, and neither one got into the end zone. But even Moser, the first half was looking good running the ball, and then second half they couldn't do anything. And man, Chase Edmonds had some bad drops in that game. Some bad
Yeah,
drops in that
I
game.
think he might. It was kind of shocking to see that from Chase Edmonds because usually when Tua was on the field, he was so productive, but yesterday he just simply had a bad game. There's
Yeah,
nothing more to it,
and the defense had to bail him out. And I mean, what is the irony that Brian Flores drafts Noah Igbenogany in the first round,
and he
doesn't
can go
play
to
him
the
for
game-winning
2
play.
years. It doesn't play him from 2 years, and I'm sure the intel that he shared with the offense is pick on 9 because they had the graphic on the Sunday night game. Oh, why are they not throwing the Xavier Howard? Because he's clamping these dudes up. And I'm sure the advice coming from Brian Flores, if he gave any to the offense, was pick on number 9. And then 9 makes the play to go ahead and seal the game. And it was a great catch. I don't blame the referee for calling it incomplete at first because, like, how do
Yeah,
you
in
keep
real
both
time, it
feet
didn't
in?
look like he caught it.
Yeah, and how do you keep both feet inbounds and then continue the catch down to the ground without, losing the ball for a half a second? So shout out Noah for making the game winning play. Javon, great safety, man. Javon is such a good
Big
football player.
plays.
Javon is such a good football player. I love number 8, but the defense played really well. Jalen got some pressures. I know it's not the best offensive line they were going against, so expected a good game from at least one of the pass rushers. Ingram has kind of fallen off from his hot start that he had in the beginning of the year. So we'll see what's happening with the pass rush because uh, Agba again, we haven't really gotten anything out of him all season. So this Dolphins team, it looks like it's going to be a team that goes
It could
very
make a
hot and
playoff
cold.
push.
I mean, they could make a playoffs push, but a lot of things have to break right because you can't just score 16 points and expect to beat teams. And this is the easy part of the schedule. So hopefully, as Tua comes back and they have more practice reps and all that, the offense starts to click a little bit more. But there was some things that were concerning, but overall it was a good night of football for the Dolphins. If that second half would have been flipped with the first half and they put up all the points in the second half, we would have been praising the offense and saying, look at how different it looks with Tua. And with Tua, geez, man, can we slide? Can we slide? Can we just slide, dude? I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
how
finish
we
the game
just
with the quarterback.
went head on.
twice too, and I'm like, bro, can we chill, Tua? Can we chill?
Um,
And then he threw at least 3 interceptions that were dropped.
yeah, a couple of them. I was gonna say two, but if you want to give him that other one late in the game, then yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't he looked rusty, I will say. He looked rusty, and there was a couple plays where it seemed like he was keyed in on this is where I'm going with the ball before the snap,
Hmm.
and there was one to Waddle where Waddle was running a different route than what Tua expected, and the ball just landed in nowhere.
That didn't
The
even
one
go.
the one where he threw to Tyreek, where Tyreek had the safety coming over top on the other side of the field, Jalen was
Hmm.
running open in the corner. It fell down. So there was a couple plays where it's like, all right, are you just predetermined where you're going to get the ball to, or are we actually reading the field here?
Yeah, I think it was predetermined just because from the first quarter you see it was get the ball out as fast as you can. It
Yeah.
was get it out, and that's what I kind of expected because you figured, all right, Mike McDaniel's going to be real cautious with Tua in this passing game. It's like, hey, just get it out quick. We TJ Watt might not be there, but that defensive line they can still get after the quarterback. We don't want Tua to get hit, especially on a night where they're celebrating the perfect team.
Yeah.
How many
50th
years?
anniversary. Yeah, 50th year was this year.
Yeah, so they're trying to make sure, hey, nothing bad happens tonight. Tua, just get the ball out quick. You already know, just throw the pass there. If it's incomplete, it's incomplete. We'll live to see another down.
And it
But
was
I
a
will say,
super cool game. It was
yeah,
they had like a 1972 museum with like everything 1972. They had the telegram that was sent to Don Shula after they won the Super Bowl. They had the scorecard with the official referees, the scoring plays in there. 14-7 Super Bowl to win to cap off the undefeated season.
I mean, now, so it was, I did expect Tua to be a little rusty yesterday, and he was, but overall, I feel like they should be fine. I just wish now, I understand that injury and slash concussion is going to be on the back of Tua's mind every time when he's in the game, but also I'll be like, hey man, like you got to make this playoff push because if you don't, you might not be the Dolphins starting quarterback next year.
Yeah, I mean,
You might be a
honestly,
backup quarterback for any other team.
I think the biggest thing is he's just got to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, then they're going to have a shot. They're going to be in the push, and but the AFC is super
Yeah.
competitive.
Right now, the AFC East. I mean, the Jets. I understand they might not have had the most impressive win against the Broncos, but they still won.
They won the game. They won the game, and I
They
know that
beat the Dolphins,
they
so
beat the
that's still
Dolphins.
that's a division win. So if there's a tiebreaker, hey, that notch goes to them
Yeah, and the Patriots still have to play tonight on Monday night, so we'll see
against
what happens. A team
against a
that they're
completely
favored to
Bears
win
team.
too. So yeah, so the AFC East just alone is competitive. The AFC in general, I mean, we were talking about the AFC West coming in. The Broncos have fallen off, but it looks like the Raiders are kind of getting their stuff together. The Chiefs are still there. I don't know what's happening with the Chargers, but I'm assuming that they're still going to be there later in the season just because of their quarterback. So, I think as long as they stay healthy, I mean, because it's pretty much impossible for a defense when you have Hill and Waddle on the same side of the field lining up. Like that's crazy. But even just bigger picture with the Dolphins, Cedric Wilson just not a part of the offense. They had him returning punts yesterday, and that was the only time he was on the field. Sherfield has seemed to pass him up on the wide receiver depth chart. We've seen Craig Kraft get a couple touchdowns now and being part of the offense. And Gesicki looked like he was a little bit. There was a couple passes that were thrown his way, but it wasn't it
Wasn't the
wasn't as
best.
explosive as I expected the offense to be, especially when you have Tyreek and Jalen. I don't understand how there isn't somebody just eating under. Like we saw Travis Kelsey make a living off of just
Yeah,
eating under the routes that Tyreek was creating and the space he was creating for him. So that's something I would like to see the Dolphins unlock on offense. And then just I think if they get more healthy, I mean, if Byron can play at all this year, then okay. If no, I mean, Noah was all right in the Vikings game. It's clear that teams are like, yo, we're targeting nine. We're as if
yeah.
nine's on the field, throw the ball that way. And I mean, I, I wouldn't say he's been good, but I also wouldn't say he's been bad. Like he
He's been
hasn't been like,
solid. I'm not
yeah.
gonna say
And I feel
too
like
much.
that's kind of what comes with the cornerback position. Like you're gonna get beat sometimes, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's just about,
almost all of them.
yeah, it's just about not getting beat for a 70-yard touchdown. So like if Byron can come back and Noah moves down to the third corner because you're missing Needham, you're missing a couple of the guys
Mhm.
that stepped up for you before, then I think then the Dolphins might actually start cooking with something because if they can get the corners more healthy, if Xavier, can play a full game and not have to, be kind of on a pitch count. It's a good football team. There's talent up and down, and I mean, clearly McDaniel has the script down where, okay, when we get the ball, we know what we're going to do, and they're able to move it. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of figuring out the rest of the game plan from here on out.
Yeah. No, I agree. The Dolphins have a shot.
And it's Lions next, or yeah, it's Lions next
They
week.
should win.
Yeah,
They
Lions
should.
next week, Bears the week after, and then Texans. And then I
So,
believe Browns, and I'm not sure if Deshaun is back by then. I think it's the week before
week
he comes
13,
back.
Deshaun comes back.
Okay, so he's still got a little bit, because I think that game, the next home game is the Browns game, and I think that's week 10. Because
Yeah,
the next
I
two are on
just
the
know
list.
Deshaun's first game back is when they play the Texans.
Okay, so yeah, he's not even going to be back. So I mean, not even I think that's 3 games they are going to be the favorite to win the game.
And they have to win. If they don't win, it's going to be tough for them just to climb out of that hole. But
And
I
you
would like
can't
to
lose
see
to former interim coach Dan Campbell. That cannot happen.
Well, I mean, Dan Campbell, I mean, the Lions, they have an offense. They just can't stop anyone on defense. But after yesterday losing to Amon St. Brown,
Yeah, that's
I don't know how long that will be. With
and the
concussion,
Dolphins.
hopefully,
I mean, and we know with Goff, like once you get pressure on him, he's going to make turnovers. Like it was crazy in red zone because they kept going to that game, and it was like every minute and a half, it was a new Lions turnover.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
I was like, how many times has he turned it over in the last 5 minutes?
It's something, but let's talk about real quick some fantasy football. And before we get to stars of the week, we have a comment from someone on YouTube. It says, I have Brady / Stafford,
Oh, God.
JT, Fournette, Kamara, Connor, and Gus, Waddle, Higgins, Godwin, Myers, Olave, and Ertz and Everett. I'm 4-3.
Bro, are you playing in the league by yourself?
Reaching their ceiling. What do I do?
Well, first off, you got to get rid of those quarterbacks.
Yeah, your quarterbacks you have to replace.
You got to get rid of those quarterbacks. I would look at a Lawrence maybe, because Lawrence, I mean, it seems like for some reason have said, hey, we're going to become a read option team with Trevor Lawrence. So
or Daniel Jones. If you could buy low on Daniel Jones, he's going to rush for about 100 yards a game now and get about maybe 200 yards passing with a touchdown.
I would keep Olave too. I would drop Myers because I think Myers is going to fall a little bit in the pecking order with Thornton.
I would trade Higgins.
Coming back healthy, but yeah, I would definitely. First thing I would suggest is definitely switch up that quarterback position. Even if it's somebody you don't think is necessarily I mean, you don't think is necessarily better than them. Those two guys I don't see them being fantasy studs. Even if their season turns around, I don't think it's going to be because Brady's now averaging 400 yards a game or Steph.
I would even get rid of some of your running backs. JT, he hasn't done anything this year. Fournette, he's in a pass-first offense. He's not going to get the ball as much, especially after yesterday. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. Kamara, he had a good game last time, but
I like Olave. I think Olave is like your best potential to blow up as the season goes. Because if their season starts to fall apart, why not showcase the rookie?
Yeah, but I would say Kamara, I would try to get rid of him, try to get someone else. Maybe and James Conner, I don't know how Conner's going to be out. Gus Edwards, if it's Gus Edwards, I don't mind it just because I don't know what's going to happen with J.K. Dobbins. But maybe
he's out.
Get like a Dalvin.
I think he's out 4 to 6 for Dobbins. So it's going to be Drake, Gus, and Justice in the backfield for Baltimore, and then with I don't know. That's a tough team right there. That's tough.
His team has potential. It's just like he says, no one has reached their ceiling. I would keep Ertz. I would keep Waddle. The rest, honestly, I would say the rest are up for grabs.
Yeah, try to switch it up. Try to get some trades. I mean, you have running backs that I think people will, because I don't think people are going to quit. I don't think people are going to want to quit Jonathan Taylor yet. So you might be able to still extract some value, even though that it's not been the best season for him so far. And I mean, with the quarterback news, I mean, they might be able to.
It's probably just going to be a game plan of running the ball.
That's what I'm thinking. He might get a lot of touches, so he might be a bounce back candidate for your own team. But you could potentially, maybe get a 2-for-1 for Taylor at this point.
Yeah, potentially. But now let's transition to fantasy and specifically stars of the week. Now, guys, we'll keep this one short just because, in terms of fantasy wise, there wasn't that many stars. There wasn't that many. But I do want to say one star before we get started was on Miles's team, and it's Joe Burrow. Almost 40 points. Like, I don't know how I can't deny it. 40 points.
Yeah,
And
he snapped, and I thought going in, I had the Bengals -6, and I parlayed it earlier in the day with Burrow over 2.5 touchdowns and Bengals win. I thought this was just a bad matchup for Atlanta, especially with their secondary issues that they have right now. So I expected Burrow to have a good day. I just didn't expect him to have almost 300 yards at half with 2 touchdowns. Like
yeah,
that's crazy, and then get a rushing touchdown on top of that. Like, who? Joe Burrow rushing touchdowns? Like, what is going on there?
yeah,
But it's kind of giving me flashbacks of last year when they started putting everything together, and it started with Chase having a big game, and he started last week against New Orleans. He had the game-winning touchdown for them last week, and then I don't think he put up the best numbers this week. I think he had a touchdown, but I know he went out for a little bit as well. But Boyd finally got into the mix for them. So I honestly think that they might start putting it together on offense. And I mean, I just don't think Joe Mixon is going to be a
yeah.
big factor for them anymore.
The only thing that scares me about the Bengals is their schedule, because now they play the Browns on Monday night. That's a division rivalry game. Those are usually always tough for them. Not to say the Browns are a good team, it's just that's how the AFC
I
North
mean,
is.
they lost to the Steelers. That's how
Yeah.
that division works. Yeah. They just beat the
And
hell out of each other.
and then they play the Panthers. I don't know what the Panthers will be that day. Then they play the Steelers again. I'm pretty sure they want to redeem themselves. Then they're actually going to be playing a well-coached Titans team, and then they play the
First in the
Chiefs. So,
AFC South.
yeah, so they end that 5 game starts with the Chiefs. So it's definitely going to be tough for them with these next 5 games. I feel like there's very 2 good chances of a win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are 2-3 in these next 5 because they're going back to yesterday. Their schedule was actually fairly in their favor. They go the Jets, Dolphins, Ravens, Saints, and then Falcons. So it was definitely beneficial for them.
And
I
they've
feel like that
lost to the
schedule.
Jets?
The Jets game, no, they
Can't
beat the
remember.
Jets 27-12.
Okay, because there was I know outside there was another game that they lost. Oh, that Ravens game where they just didn't look good on
Yeah, they
offense.
didn't look great, but that Ravens defense did look
Yeah,
much better that week.
yeah. Because I was thinking that they kind of, I mean, they don't really have too much room for error because
They don't.
the Ravens are still there, and even though the Ravens have had a super weird season, they're gonna. It seems like they're always gonna be in
Lamar
the
is still
mix.
going to be Lamar.
Yeah, and so that and like you said, the AFC North, like that's just what they do.
Yeah, they beat up on
Even
each
if
other.
yeah, even if you're not the most competitive team, like those games mean something to
Close.
each organization. Yeah, like they want to make a point and say like, okay, even if our season sucks, it'll make our season if we beat you. Like no matter who it is. So yeah, that and you have to factor in the fact that Burrow has been hit a lot. So, like,
Yeah,
does wear and tear take anything off of that offense? Does he start getting the ball out quicker so that their down the field passing game isn't as explosive as we've seen? But
it's
I mean, he
definitely
loves
something.
being in that pocket, so I doubt it.
And then my last star, I only have one other star, Josh Jacobs. I
Three
feel like Josh,
tutties.
yeah, I feel like Josh Jacobs was so much better than all the other skill players. Not to say anything bad about Jamar Chase or anyone else that did really well yesterday. It's just Josh Jacobs, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like that's incredible. It
Yeah,
was really incredible. So I
playing
would
for a
say,
contract too. So that
yep.
boy double starred up.
So I give him my star of the week because mainly for the bust of the week. That one we have a lot more to talk about with you guys, but I would say those are my only 2 stars of the week, considering how this week turned out.
For me, my number one star, and hopefully, I'm hoping I can ride him all the way to the fantasy playoffs. Kenneth Walker, brother, gets his first start last week against the Cardinals,
He
just
did
under
well.
100. Yeah, just under 100 yards, 97 with a touchdown. This week against the Chargers, we go for 168, 7.3 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. There's only one league that I don't have him in, and he is amazing. He last year he won at Michigan State. He won the Doak Walker Award for best college running back, and then he comes in second round, drafted by the Seahawks. And even when everybody was screaming to let Russ cook, what did they want to do? Run the ball. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to use their second round pick. Unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. Took an injury for him to get into the starting lineup, but I've been saying, I said it on the podcast a couple of times. This was my last year's Javonte Williams. I thought later in the season he would actually provide a really big punch for a team and eventually become featured, and hopefully you could ride him into the playoffs. So Kenneth Walker, definitely star of the week for me. Another star of the week, I mean, I guess you could put Boyd in there, but he sat on my bench in 2 different leagues, so I can't really do that. Another star, he didn't have like the biggest numbers, but he made a good touchdown catch and helped his team win. I'll go with Scary Terry.
Terry had a very good game considering the season that it's been, because Curtis Samuel's mainly been the number one for
and he's got Dotson there to take targets away from him now too, but he's back with his boy Taylor Heineke. And they're back out there making plays that you're like, what did I just see? Like, that fade to the end zone where he caught it, I was like, all right, Terry, put those points up on the board. So I'll give a star of the week to Terry McLaurin, because I feel like, well, honestly, why would you ever talk about this team? So I feel like he slides under the radar, especially for just how much of a hard worker and how hard-nosed he is, where he's going to try to go up and catch literally anything you throw to him. And he hasn't had the best quarterback situation, and you never hear the kid say anything about anything.
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. Well, guys, those were our stars of the week. And before we talk about the busts of the week, we want to give a shout out to the presenting sponsor of this podcast, E2G Sports. They take care of all the behind-the-scenes stuff for this podcast in terms of setting it up on StreamYard, where we are broadcasting this live right now on YouTube every Monday at 2:30 p.m. and every Friday at 3 o'clock. You guys can watch us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those platforms. They help us do all the behind-the-scenes work. And right now we're going to be on the schedule for every week for the NFL season. We'll see what comes with NBA, but right now we're enjoying it, and we love the team at E2G Sports. So if you guys are more interested in not only listening to our content, but others like First Formation, Patriots Place, if you are a Patriots fan, or if you want to read up on some news like about baseball, I know the World Series is about to start, you guys can read some of their content on their website or check out their baseball podcast. They do have one on YouTube and Facebook. So now let's go to Bust of the Weekend. Before I ask you the Bust of the Week, I just want to give an honorable mention to one bust, because he was going to be my first, like at the top, but this whole team did bad. I gave that whole team a bust. Fantasy bust Mark Andrews, 0.4. You're mute.
But his status was already questionable going into this.
Yeah. So I was like,
I honestly thought I saw a tweet that said he was going to be out for the game, and then I guess he ended up being active.
But the only thing I just look at is like, if you're in the game, then you're healthy enough to play.
I mean, but T. Higgins last week, he got 0 for me. At least he got point something. T. Higgins played 1 series, and then they said he was healthy enough to play, and then didn't play the rest of the game.
So I mean, Mark Andrews, 0.4, but that was my honorable mention. But I know we talked about this, saying just we had bust of the week, but mainly we both had 2 teams.
Yeah.
And both of them, they were bust in real life and in fantasy. So this qualifies as, so who was your fantasy bust of the week?
I mean, my fantasy bust of the week, I mean, Lamar did not have the game I was expecting him to have. And I thought he would be able to at least put up some yards, but overall, it has to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That whole team was just bad.
It has to be. And Mike Evans, I don't know what that was, dropping what was going to be an easy touchdown. And then I don't know if you saw this, but after the game, 2 officials asked
him with the referees.
What?
Those referees aren't going to work in the NFL anymore.
Bro, they can't. I don't care what the explanation is. Like, that is suspect.
Yeah.
That is super suspect.
I saw the tweet that says Calvin Ridley has entered the chat.
And then the craziest part to me about this game was PJ Walker just played straight up better than Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady was bad. Like, he was just bad.
Like, and I know we're going to talk about the Packers in this segment too. Let me just put this out there. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers lost to two XFL quarterbacks. Taylor Heineke and PJ Walker needed the XFL to get their foot back in the door of the
Yep.
NFL. And that's who Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers lost to. I mean, I don't even honestly, who would you rather be at this point?
None of them. But I would go back to your Bucks point, bro. Chris Godwin didn't have a good game. Mike Evans, they might have had a good game statistically, like 8 catches, over 60 yards, but it just wasn't good. It really wasn't, considering what we know them. Like, I know Mike Evans is, like, on a bad day, when it was Jameis, he would have like 9 catches for a touchdown and like 100 yards. That was like a bad game.
Yeah, minimum.
Chris Godwin, 12 catches for like 100 yards, maybe a touchdown. That was a bad game. But now these bad games are just getting worse and worse. So for the Bucks, I was like, oh my God. And then this is to mention for the Bucks on our E2G fantasy league, Levante David and Devin White. You guys were that Bucks defense bust, because we drafted you two thinking it's like, all right, these are guys that get a ton of tackles. They're going to make tackle for losses. This is going to be good. That was a lie as of this point. And we look dumb for drafting them, because, man, they've just been bust.
They've been straight up bust. And I mean, it's bad when DJ Moore finally has a game on you. But it's bad. DJ Moore
hasn't been bad. DJ Moore's been bad the whole year.
And the Panthers trade McCaffrey going into this week.
They don't have their best player.
Foreman go for 118 yards on 7.9 yards a carry, and then Chuba Hubbard goes for 63 on 7 yards a carry.
Yeah,
so they weren't trying out there. Like, I don't know, like that's probably one of the worst performances you're going to see all season. And I don't even know what there is to fix it. I mean, I guess you could try to run the ball more, because Brady goes for 49 attempts, only 290 yards, 5.9 yards just an attempt. And he was only sacked once. So it wasn't like, oh, there was all this, like, it was only sacked once. On the ground, Fournette, 8 carries, 19 yards. Rashad Wright, 6 carries, 24 yards. Like, the offense could not do anything. Yeah. And then you look at these guys that they have out there, like, okay, you got Mike Evans and you got Chris Godwin. The next guy is Cade Otton. The next guy is
Russell Gage.
Russell Gage is the next guy. And then it's 2 running backs, Fournette and Rashad White, who's a rookie. After that, it's a guy whose first name is Ko Kieft. I've never heard of this man before in my life. Then we're going back to Scotty Miller, Kyle Rudolph. I didn't know Kyle Rudolph still played football. Like, what is this retirement team that they're running out around Tom Brady?
Oh, all I know is that it doesn't matter. All I know is that they played bad. They just played bad.
Yeah, and it's not a good football team. And
it's not.
It's kind of weird when you look at Carolina, because they have this performance. And I mean, if you look at it, week 1, they lose on almost a 60-yard field goal to a Browns kicker who has been super inconsistent since then. And then they lose to the Giants in week 2 in a game they could have won. And they trade their best player, but they put up this performance. Like, are they just a couple of different decisions away from having 4 wins, being 4-5?
Yeah, they definitely are. But I remember yesterday I texted you, and I was just like, Bucks are trash.
Yeah, and super trash.
And then you just text me, it's like, bro, I just asked my dad if the Bucks are bad. Like,
yeah, after I was watching on Red Zone, I was like, hey, do you think the Bucks bad? And then I looked at my phone and I saw the text from you, and I was like, yo, I literally just asked that, because I don't get what's going on. I mean, the only saving grace that they have is that they play in an absolutely terrible conference, and they're still somehow in first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's them and the Falcons currently at 3-4, and the Bucks now.
Right now they would be playing they would be playing the 5 seed in the playoffs. And I think that's right now the Giants or the Cowboys. And I would like the Giants or the Cowboys to beat the brakes off of Tampa.
I don't know about the Giants. Let's show.
Well, all I know is that the Giants
saw the Eagles last year. Because we saw the Eagles last year, and they were able to run the ball and all this cute stuff going into that playoff game. And then they had
at least the Giants are good in the fourth quarter. The Bucks, they're just bad.
The Bucks aren't good in any quarter. anywhere. And it's such like, so they've scored 124 points and they've given up 124 on a season. So
Yeah.
about a 0 point differential. Like it's just it's incredible. And it's like, all right, you guys got blown out by the Chiefs. Not like any ferocity came from that. Lose by just a point to the Packers. I can't believe that was the game. Like if that game was happening like this week, we'd be like panic mode. Like, oh my god, they're gonna have to lose another game, and then it doesn't get easier. The Bucs have to come around Thursday night. Lamar comes in.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, their saving grace, honestly, is that they get the Rams at home the following week, but then it's Seattle at home, at Cleveland, New Orleans, and then the 49ers. And then after that is the Bengals. So there's tough games still left on their schedule. So I mean, and it's like what do we have to like kind of like zoom out, because it's like Brady left, came back
for this.
Bruce Arians left. Now there's Todd Bowles, and like Todd Bowles coached a good defense. Like he coached a good defense. But the last time he was a head coach, the Jets sucked. And no disrespect, the Jets just suck. And they'll do that to most people. But it's like, do I have any evidence that Todd Bowles can turn this around?
And also, I would say, like Brian Leftwich and Tom Brady, you guys are just simply not a good offense without Bruce Arians.
Like the Bruce Arians looked terrible.
Bruce Arians deserves a lot more credit for how that offense worked. I understand they went back to like Brady's like favorite like play action, get the short passes, but still.
And they don't even have pieces on this roster that they can go to. It's not like Brady has the slot guy right now. It's Godwin hasn't been 100% healthy. Doesn't look like you trust him. They tried Cole Beasley. That didn't work. I forgot Scotty Miller was even a football player. And Russell Gage, I thought that was going to be a great signing for them. He had the good game against Green Bay, but he was clearly limited by injury in that game. And I don't see how it gets any better for them.
Yep. And that's going to right into my nuts bus. Outside of Devondre Campbell and Aaron Jones, that whole Packers team, fantasy-wise and real life, that was just a bus. Like, it was a bus. Because we have Devondre Campbell on E2G, and Devondre Campbell saved us.
Yeah.
Like, he saved us. So, Devondre, you are safe from this. Aaron Jones, you had if you didn't have those 2 touchdowns, I would put you on this list.
Yeah.
But overall, just that Packers team, bro, they were a bust. Fantasy-wise, receivers didn't do anything. Quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, I can't blame him too much because the receivers did drop a lot of passes, so I'm not going to put too much of the blame on him. But the defense, this was supposed to be a championship-level defense, and a defense that for anybody in fantasy, you can ride them into the
I drafted them. I drafted them because I was like, there's too much talent.
Ride them out for the whole year because it's like, all right, I can get at least maybe 8 points a week from that defense. But you can't now. That is gone.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wouldn't even play them, like, because the offense isn't putting them in positions where you're like, okay, like we can single-handedly take away this team. And this might be the worst skill position players in the NFL. And I wish Belichick was the coach of this team, because Jordan Love is a quarterback. Like 194 yards. 194 yards is what Aaron Rodgers threw for?
Yep.
194 yards? This man turned into Zach Wilson overnight. And I get that there's no one. I mean, listen to the targets. Aaron Jones, 10 targets for your running back. Allen Lazard, 7 targets, and he wasn't even 100% healthy. Robert Tonyan, 4 targets. Sammy Watkins, 4 targets. Amari Rodgers, 3 targets. Romeo Dobbs, 4 targets, 0 catches. Like, that's a terrible... I mean, I don't know how many exact drops, but I mean, 4 targets, 0 receptions. Something wasn't clicking right, whether it was drops or Rodgers wasn't getting him the ball. And it's like, holy, like, who are these guys? And it's like, what are you going to do? Sign Odell to make it better? Like, I don't think that would make it better. And I honestly don't think Rodgers really cares. He went to the post-game press conference in a robe and said that it's not anything to be worried about. You lost to the Commanders after losing to the Jets and Giants.
And then I will give the Jets and Giants like a little more credit.
Yeah, because they're better than we thought they were. But the Commanders,
much better than
with their backup quarterback?
Yeah. At least And the worst part, I mean, they were at least in on the Giants game until like the bitter end. This game they were in on the bitter end. The Jets just flat out blew them out. The Jets like beat them. But man, this was bad. I'm honestly really questioning um the Packers, honestly, in terms of fantasy. Like, I do not want any skill position players. I mean, I got Aaron Jones. I picked him up in fantasy this week because I was like, all right, I like the matchup against the Commanders. I feel like he can at least, do something. And I feel like with the way how the wide receivers are going, they're going to try to run the ball more. So Aaron did do that. But if I take away those 2 touchdowns, like, I'll just read his stats to you.
Yeah, it was like
Uh,
60 yards rushing and I think no less than 60 yards rushing and like 63 yards passing. I have
he
it
had
here.
23, he had 8 carries for 23 yards and 9 catches for 50 yards.
Well, yeah, outside of the touchdowns, it's not impressive stats. And to have 8 carries for 23 yards on a
That's just not
2.9
good.
yards per carry is gross. Like that's not anything like you would be proud of. And overall as a team, they go 0 for 6 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down, and 3 fumbles. I get only one of them was lost and was a turnover, but like this is just simply not a good football team. 47 offensive plays run for 232 yards.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Like
And
that's
this is
like mind breaking. Like how
yeah.
that happens.
That's why everyone. That's why me and Miles we picked like saying, hey, we've had some teams that were just bust. You pick one, I pick one, and we'll just say that it's the fancy bust of the week because there just simply wasn't that much good in terms of what that team put in fancy wise and on the field. But enough of our struggles because me and Miles is like blood level just went up. But
I
let's
just can't. I don't even understand it.
but let's give fantasy football update on you guys. So for anyone out there in fantasy football and right now you're pushing for playoffs or you're sitting well and you know you're going to make the playoffs, this is now a time to try to make your final moves.
Michael
And
Hart.
yep, yeah, like if you want to make that one final trade for the guys you want, because I will say this, Miles, I did this last year in the league you were commissioner. And I told Miles this before the show. I look at all of the people who I know right now are projected to make the playoffs. I look at the bracket and I look at their schedules from the first week of the playoffs to the championship game to know, okay, if I face this team, I need to know who they're playing against and I need to know how does my team stack up to theirs. And just for an example, I'm going to use Miles' team. So I'll read all of you guys Miles' lineup that won him yesterday, and he's now 6-1, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Miles is 6-1. Now, if Miles were to play in the championship game, his lineup currently would be Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kenneth Walker, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp will be in there to replace Tyler Lockett,
Well,
George,
yeah.
George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. He does have the Packers defense. I'm pretty sure he'll replace them. Jason Sanders and Jack Bailey. Now, this is what I did in the league Miles was in. I looked at all the teams who they're playing against. And so just in case, like let's say if Miles was not of 6-1 or 5-1.
6-1 now.
Yeah, 6-1. Let's say Miles had 2 wins. I would tell him right now, if you want to make the playoffs, I would try to trade Joe Burrow to a team that's not going to make the playoffs because I do not like Joe Burrow's matchup in the championship game because he's going to be playing Buffalo. I would keep Kenneth Walker because I like his matchup against the Jets. I would keep Tyreek because I like his matchup against New England. Or if Miles doesn't feel that safe with George Kittle at tight end because he's going to play the Las Vegas Raiders, even though I feel like that could be a very favorable game for him, I would say go for a tight end or start Dallas Goedert, who's going to be playing New Orleans that week, and maybe put George Kittle at the flex. So that would be something I would do to look at. And then if I'm Miles, I would try to trade for a running back to replace Clyde Edwards-Helaire, considering with Isaiah Pacheco starting yesterday, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting more snaps. So that's just my advice to all of you. Not to say for Miles, because Miles is winning. Miles has a good record, so he can do whatever he wants.
No, it makes sense, and I liked how you laid it out, and yeah, I don't go that was a good point because I had never thought about like looking at the schedule because usually what I do is like, all right, this is my squad, right? So I have a couple of guys that I'm like, all right, who is do I know will at minimum I'm comfortable no matter what having them in my starting line, because there's always going to be times where you second guess yourself. Like yesterday, I had Tyler Boyd on my bench in one of my leagues, but I had Waddle and I had Higgins starting at wide receiver. So
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I could have been mad at myself for leaving the 20 points on the bench, but I liked how my lineup was. So like, I like to just have it down to, all right, these are the guys I have, and I don't have to really flip flop between. If there's guys that, and then the guys that don't make that list where I'm like, all right, I don't know how their team's going to perform. Maybe, he's fallen down the depth chart as the season's gone on, whatever the case may be. Those are the guys that I try to group together and then get a trade for a position that I don't have somebody where I'm like, all right, that's my starter and that's who's going to stay there. So I do like trying to gather around some of the guys, because it doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad guys. Like Pollard, I've been trying to trade all year. Deontay, I have available in a couple of leagues. So like, these are
Mm-hmm.
guys, okay, they'll put up points, and like, it depends on how your league works. Like for one of my leagues, we just instituted a new rule, and it's bad. It's bad. If the
Oh wait,
person
is that
that's
the one of the punishment? The one
yeah,
you
yeah.
said?
So the person that scores the least amount of points each week has to shotgun a beer, throw an egg into it, and then send a video of them doing it to the league members by Tuesday. So you do not want to come in last as far as points. So it kind of adds some more like, all right, maybe I should make a deal instead of just having this, bad roster or having this injury filled roster. So I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to, chug a beer with an egg in it, because that sounds awful. So there are teams that should still want to make moves, and it doesn't matter. So right now for that league, right now, as the season stands, I'm 3-3. So I'm in six out of 12. Only 4 teams make the playoffs in that league. So I can't really be too selective about, am I going to trade with this guy because he's projected to make the playoffs? If it's a deal that fits for you and gets you into a spot where you're getting a tight end or you're getting a running back per se that you really like, and you can stash him there, then I would do it. I don't care what the standings say. And if you have to face up against them in the playoffs, all right, at least you made the playoffs, and then you see what happens with that trade.
And it helps if you know the schedule of them. So, for instance, if I would have played in a championship game against Myles, I personally would like my matchup more because Myles' team is facing, I think he has 6 guys or 4 that are facing a top 10 defense against that certain position. I only have one, and that's Justin Jefferson against the Packers. Outside of that, the highest ranked is 19
Yeah,
because
some of us are don't.
Lamar is facing the Steelers, who are 26 in terms of ranking points of giving quarterbacks. Dalvin Cook, 19 against the Packers. Aaron Jones, 20 against the Vikings. A.J. Brown, 26 against New Orleans. Chris Godwin, 24th against Carolina. But after yesterday, I'm not sure. And then I have Dalton Schultz against the Titans, who are 28th against the tight end. And then I got Tucker, 14 against Pitt, but kickers are a dime a dozen. And the Eagles defense who are playing New Orleans, and New Orleans gives up the 24, or who are ranked 24th against defense. So that means they're pretty bad. I mean, they give up a lot of points. So that's just something to look at. So let's say if I knew I would, if I wasn't going to make the playoffs and Myles was going to make the playoffs, Myles could come and look, and it's like, hey, I want Lamar, I want this person, and he can offer me Joe Burrow and someone, because then Myles has a better matchups for his players and for the fantasy championship. So I do advise everyone now to genuinely look at your opponents. Look at who's like, all right, who has the best matchups. And if you're projected to have a bye, then you can bypass that first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't have to stress it.
But if you're going like the last 2 weeks, look at who your team is playing.
Yeah,
And then
and it's stuff like that, especially if like you really want to make a playoff push, you have to like put yourself into position. Like, I need to be on top of everything all the time. Like, I
yeah,
can't just waver in and out. And injuries are going to start playing a key part. So I mentioned Michael Carter right off the top of that segment. That's because Brees Hall got injured yesterday. It was
yep,
confirmed today
ACL.
that he tore his ACL. So Michael Carter, who Hurricane fans know is a solid and good backup running back, and could probably start for a couple of teams. But I really like him. And, with a young quarterback, that's a team that is still going to have to rely on their running game no matter what. It's not like they can just go lean in pass heavy. It's not a Tampa Bay situation, for example. So
Yeah.
their injuries are going to be a key part. Last year, Clyde Edwards went down. Darrell Williams was a really big addition for my team that I had because I had waiver wire. And this is also where waiver wire really starts to play a key tactic in as far as, having an advantage.
Yeah.
Just because somebody had a good week doesn't mean you have to put a waiver claim on them. It could be a flash in the pan. And if you claim somebody that is just a flash in the pan, you drop all the way back down. Yeah, there's room to move back up, but that's only if other people start using their waiver claims. I generally use maybe 2 to 3 so I can always be near the top so that if there is an injury, I know, all right, at least I have a shot. Now I don't have to be like, oh, I hope nobody else notices this guy in free agency.
That's why I dropped the Cowboys. I dropped the Cowboys defense because I was like, all right, I know once they play the Bears, they have a bye. So that means the person who has them, because almost everyone in our league has one defense. So I know automatically once there's a bye, they're going to drop the Cowboys again.
Yeah.
They're going to drop them. So I'm just like, all right, then I could get them back if I don't get to claim them again this week. So that's why I'm a big predicator of like know the schedules of your players and you drop them. If you know, it's like, all right, if I'm just going to drop them for this week, just because I know they have a bye coming up, then you use your waiver wire to pick up someone you want, like Myles said. So Myles right now, let's see his waiver order.
I don't even think I've used one in this league. Oh, no, I did. I used for Ayuk. Yeah, I used for Ayuk.
I'm right behind you. Week. I'm 6.
Yeah, and that was the first time I used was this past week because I needed Ayuk. Dude, I can't quit Ayuk. I don't know what it is about this kid, but I love
him. I drafted him.
I love him, bro. Dude. If Kyle Shanahan, if you ever come across 305 takes, let me intern for you guys. I love that offense, man. I know that it didn't work out too well for them yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs, but the fact that you can still look good with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback just because you know how to use the talent. I mean, I thought they looked good until Jimmy threw that pick at the goal line.
I thought they looked good until I saw number 10 walk on the field for 49ers.
I mean, they were up. They were up, and they had a chance to be up at halftime if he just doesn't throw that pick. And they had 3 timeouts. I don't know why he was scared of just not taking the sack. The pick was just incredible. They could have had a lead at halftime, and I think that changes the whole complexity of the game. But sometimes you try to hide the quarterback, and you just can't. You can't.
Yep. Oh, and another thing I will advise everyone is that when you make trades now, try to make them as fair as you possibly can, because now everyone kind of knows is like, all right, this person is kind of like trying to sell their team. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, have some integrity. That's what fantasy is all about. Have some integrity.
Like, keep it fair. Keep the trades fair. I understand some of them might be lopsided, but if they are generally fair in terms of at the moment, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
If they turn out lopsided in the end, that's just how the deal went. But if at the moment it's fair, I have no issue with the deal. I really don't.
I agree with that as well.
Because there's always winners and losers of every trade. There's always going to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just you can't just make these ridiculous trades because somebody has one win on the season and they're not updating the app and they haven't changed their lineup in 3 weeks. No.
I mean, look at me. I traded Mark Andrews for AJ Brown and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin didn't do what I thought he would keep doing with Zach Wilson, and I bite the bullet. And I was like, hey, I thought he was going to keep doing that, and I was going to get another wide receiver to pair up with Justin Jefferson. No. That didn't work. But then note, in a week after, Moises had Mark Andrews for 2 good weeks, and then one of his worst weeks, probably of his career, Mark Andrews, and it actually even helped Myles.
Yeah, it did. It honestly did. So it that's what makes fantasy so unpredictable because you'll be like, all right, I'm in a good position. I should win because I like to look at the matchups and it's like, all right, you got quarterback versus quarterback, running back versus running back. I like to look to see which matchup I can win, based on how they have their lineup set. So I like to do that. And, even sometimes you see Mark Andrews, you're like, all right, I should win most matchups. And then he puts up a 0.8 or whatever.
0.4 and Myles basically mopped the floor with him. No, I feel bad for Moy because now he's.
No, I don't feel bad for Moy because we're playing in another league and we're both undefeated and the matchups are the undefeated and he beat me. So I had to beat him in another league.
Well, no, this one's pretty important for anyone that doesn't know. There's money and a trophy on the line, and it's almost like a replica of the Lombardi, almost, not completely, but almost. And if Miles wins that one, I think it kind of makes up for any other league that he doesn't win.
And I get to talk, that good. So music's
Yeah,
in my ears, honestly.
but last year that was me, so it wouldn't bother
Yep.
me. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, if I won one and Miles won one, all right, I can live with that.
At least the
But
podcast is represented.
yeah, at least the podcast is represented. But I will have to ask this: out of like all the people in fantasy, who is like you said, man, like why can't this guy just like lose?
Alex, I've been dying for Alex. I hate that we're just tied, bro. Like, come on, like, can I lose at least? Like, can we just not be tied? Like, let's enough with the tie.
Oh my
And
god!
and it's so funny because he has like a, I don't know what show she's from, but it's like that girl, and she's like just standing there as like his icon. So I'm always just scrolling through until I see that the little yellow background. I'm like, where is this kid? Where
Oh
is this kid?
yeah,
Is he losing?
from Bob's Burgers. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Yes. I'm just scrolling through until I see the icon. I'm like, oh, please be losing. And then this week I was like, yes. I was like, but I thought it would be pretty ironic if we would have both lost this week.
Damn. Have you talked trash to anyone in this league?
Honestly, no. Honestly, because at least the games are competitive,
Yeah.
especially on our side of the division. Our side of the division is crazy.
I would let everyone know. Okay, I'm actually gonna read it. I have the standings right here.
This is the old NBA East is way worse than the West. We're in the
Like,
West.
so the top 4 scorers in the league are Alex, me, Moises, and Miles. Top 4. And 3 of us are in the same division. Me, Miles, and Alex are all in the same division.
Yeah.
So it just makes it hard. Note, I would have the same record as Miles and Moises, but I've also like faced them. So I was like, I can't be mad because they're one of the higher scorers too. But what is the difference is between me, Alex, and Miles. Miles has faced, as of today, they're not counting the points from this weekend. Miles has faced the least amount of points in our league. And Alex has faced the 3rd least. Me, I have the 4th most against me.
Yeah. That's tough. And I have a homeboy that's always like, especially like when your team hasn't done good, but you still have a fat amount of points for like even above teams that are above you in the standings. I have a homeboy that's like, yeah, all right, I'm 6th, but I'm 3rd in points scored this year.
Like,
so
it
all right,
shows,
bro, but unfortunately, that's not how the standings work.
It's just luck. It's luck. Whenever you play,
it's just who you play. It's who you play, and does your team snap?
Yeah.
Because sometimes your team can still snap, and you'll put up a lot of points. But this guy put up 132, and you lost, even though you put up 125.
Okay, and we have a question from Z Smitty. Should I drop Wandale Robinson for Rashad Bateman, or should I drop Garrett Wilson? I actually wouldn't mind dropping Wandale Robinson just because I'm not. The Giants mainly run the football. Well, at least with Garrett Wilson, the Jets, they do pass the ball.
But they just have so many weapons. So
that's the only part. And also Zach Wilson's connection with Corey Davis. That's what hurts Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, dude, Zach Wilson loves Corey Davis. But I kind of like Wandale.
I like his potential.
It just is Kadarius Toney not going to play this year,
or Kenny Golladay.
I don't care about that. That's a lost cause. But if Toney doesn't play, then I mean Wandale is a bottom tier flex guy, but at least he's a starting flex guy. At least he starts for the team. I mean, I sometimes start Pollard at flex, and he's not a starter, so it could be worse. I would rather have Pollard. I'm sorry for doing that, but still, Wandale I don't think is the worst option in the world.
If I had to say both, I say Garrett just because of Zach Wilson's connection with Corey Davis. That's my only issue with that. If this was in real life, I say Wandale Robinson, like without a question, because I feel Rashad Bateman is that much better. But in terms of fantasy wise, I say Garrett Wilson. That's just my preference on that. Yeah. But I will say this, to go back to our fantasy, who I talked to most trash with? Alex.
Oh, okay. I was about to say,
bro, me and Alex.
I need to know what you're saying. Yeah. What do you got? It's everybody with Alex, I guess.
Yeah,
I just
bro, Alex just loves to gaslight people.
He loves the trades in this league has been hilarious. I love this league. We need to run it back next year.
But next year, I don't know if I should expand it to 12 because I do know Moya, who we had one time in the pod. I asked him about it, and when I did the fantasy basketball with him draft this week, this past week, I will say this: I know Jacob. Jacob knows his stuff, but I
The
also feel like
only thing,
that's because I asked him on some of the trades, bro. Moya was talking smack about the trades for me, so I was like, okay, he's saying this. So
because I feel like the only drawback from 12 is how many playoff teams make it.
if it's 12, I will keep it at 6.
Keep it at 6, okay.
I will keep it at 6. Like top 2 get a bye, and then
But I hate the bye because the bye messes it up. Because how is it in this league? Is it just 1 week for playoffs?
no, playoffs is 3 weeks in total.
But it's only 1 week but it's week. So round 1 is week 14 and 15.
No, week 15.
Are you sure?
Yeah, week 15 is the bye.
Because I like the 2-week. I like
And
the
then-
2-week playoff matchup.
Because then it would have to be like almost 8 teams to keep it. But I'd only keep it at 6 just because. All right, week 15 will be the bye. Week 16 will be the
I
like
just hate
AFC,
week
NFC
17
title
being.
game.
I just hate week 17 being championship game.
The only reason I have it because I know the last week so many starters will sit out.
That's what I'm
that
saying.
It makes
I
it
hate
unfair.
17 being that. That's why I like 14 and 15 being round 1, and then 16 and 17 being championship.
Yeah, 17 is the championship because I know so many starters sitting out the last week. It makes the championship game so unfair for one team. And then it's like, all right, like, was it
And
really
especially if
one?
players on a good team like that,
Yeah.
that doesn't help you.
Yeah, so that's why I have it like that. But Alex, I talk smack with. Peter, I talk smack with. Mainly me and Peter just job back and forth with like saying who's going to win. He always, note, he beat Alex this week. So,
Yeah, he did.
like,
he
I
did.
mean, he's 6-1,
That was a
but
big
I'll
win.
also.
Shout out Peter. Shout out
But
Peter.
I'll
That
also
was a
tell
big
Peter
win.
he's also faced the second least amount of points. Like, get my schedule.
You can only play your schedule, man.
Yeah,
Nothing
I
you can
only
do
play my
about it.
schedule.
No.
But I also am like, hey, luck was on my side last year a lot, so I can't be too mad. Because I think, bro, I don't know. Like, my fantasy team last year was so OP. Like, it was just not fair.
Yeah, you had a squad, bro.
Josh Allen, Eckler, Chubb, Cup, Deontay Johnson, Mark Andrews, Odell, the Cowboys defense, and I think I had Tucker.
Yeah.
And I forgot who my other flex was.
I want to say like was it not the Rams running back? Didn't you have Henderson for a little bit?
I don't know. All I know is that, bro, my team was just so not fair.
I thought you had Henderson
I don't
when
know.
he
It
was
was
snapping, when
somewhere.
he was getting like 15 a game after
Yeah.
Akers got hurt.
So I was like, man,
Or maybe Darrell Williams?
probably.
one of
All I
them.
know
It was
is that
something
it
like
was
that.
just, it came to a point where it was just like, it was not fair. So I was like, all right, like luck was just on my side last year. And no one got hurt. That was the thing. No one got
Yeah.
hurt. I never had to worry about injuries.
Yeah, you were sitting pretty last year, honestly.
So I was like, all right, that's the one. But at least I would say, hopefully next year when we run it back, and if everyone is down to run it back, cool. I just hope there's some more trash talking because, bro, I was in the group chat. Like I said, bro, Alex just gaslights people.
He is a gaslighter. But he's good at it though. He is good at it though.
Yeah, bro, you should have seen last year when I did it with him in the other league. And he talked about like how he was trying to trade Russell Wilson, bro. He was talking smack about Russell Wilson. He was like, bro, everyone loves Russell Wilson except Future. And then he just gave like this whole explanation why the guy should trade for Wilson instead of Rodgers. Like he gave this whole explanation. And the guy was like, oh my God. And I was just like, bro, Alex, why are you doing this? So
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I will admit, like Alex does like a lot, but
I think he has the most moves in the league this year.
I could see that actually right now. The moves, who has the most?
I think I only have like 5 or 6, maybe 7.
Oh no, it's Ed.
Moy? Ed has the most.
Ed has 20. Alex has 18. I have 16. Okay. Peter has 14. JP has 12.
I think
Ryan
I'm like
has 11. Nick has 10. Dom has 8. Moy has 7. You have 5.
5 moves. And one of them is trading Amari.
Yeah.
That was basically everything I did. And I scooped up Ayuk. I think that's literally the only moves I can remember. And I had to get Sanders last night. So I made 3 moves this week. And I only had made 2 others the whole other time, and one was trading for Amari. I wonder what that last one was.
Yeah.
I don't know who I scooped. They're not on my team anymore, if I could tell you that. Yeah.
Oh, and we got a comment, so we'll read the last comment before we drop off. Someone said, I tried to tell y'all to bet on Seattle and Commanders. Y'all didn't hear me though. And
I like Seattle.
I
like
mean, I like
Seattle.
this Seattle. The only thing I just didn't
And I
know-
bet them +5, so you
Yeah.
can't be mad at me on that one. The Washington Green Bay game, I could not do.
No one
I
could
just
predict
couldn't
that
bet
one.
it.
No
No,
one
I
could.
mean, I didn't even care about predicting it. I was just not going to bet it.
If
Like,
it was
I
the
like
points,
Heineke.
I wasn't
He
gonna
does
bet
crazy
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm already on Packers under 11 wins, so you can
Yeah.
say I already bet against them.
The only thing I just was you were asking me to bet on Taylor Heineke. That's my thing.
I love the Heineke, bro. The kid plays. He doesn't know
He's a
any better.
gamer.
That's the
He's a
best thing.
gamer.
Yeah, he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know he shouldn't be there. But that's what football's all about. And it was a crazy week. Get some more teams coming off the bye. We finally get to see for fantasy get some studs back. Cup, Jefferson, Cousins if you have them. Cook, all those guys come back off bye, and the Bills guys. So it should be exciting for next week as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be here for it. We'll be back on Friday, guys. We'll give you guys a little bit of updates on our teams. And until next time, guys, we'll see you on Friday.
Peace.